What did you think at the end of the game? Second to last play, pass to the end zone. Brevin Jordan, Gorman guy, Vegas guy. A lot of the crowd was like, "Okay, interference, let's go." Right down near the goal line, and then no interference.
Yeah, it was weird. I thought that was interference. Not to say I would certainly blame the loss on the referees. There were some bad calls, but Miami, believe me, they played poorly enough to hand Florida way too many opportunities. I thought that should have been interference, but at the same time, earlier that quarter, if, Jeff Thomas, who's one of Miami's veteran receivers, hadn't muffed the punt, they may not have even needed, a touchdown on that drive to win the game. So there was a lot of ugly there. I thought, guys, the more egregious missed call was I think it was on Florida's game-winning drive on fourth down. Very obvious false start that wasn't called. And so I think that'd probably be where I would start on head-scratching calls or no calls.
Three-part question. How many game changers do they have on offense? Second part, is Brevin Jordan the best game changer? And third part is, did they not use him enough in the second half because he didn't have as many targets?
I would start, when you're talking about game changers on offense, Brevin Jordan is at or near the top of the list. DJ Dallas, the running back, number 13, who also scored a touchdown in the game, he's right up there as well. Jeff Thomas should be a game changer. That was the guy who muffed the punt. He had kind of a disastrous performance, if you ask me. KJ Osborne, a receiver that he's a fifth-year guy transferred from Buffalo. He had a really good camp, looked pretty good in the game. I think he's more of a move-to-change type of guy than a game breaker. I probably shouldn't put him in there. But Brevin Jordan, I think he's going to have a fantastic year. He actually, I know that Tate Martell, who's not the starter, was a high school teammate of his over there in Vegas, but Brevin Jordan is actually really close with Jaron Williams, who is the starting quarterback. They became best friends last year, apparently. And you can see their rapport on the field. So I think Brevin Jordan is going to be a tremendous weapon for Miami all season long. Had a big touchdown in the game on Saturday. I think that's going to be a name you hear a lot called this season. And sorry, what was part three?
Why didn't they use him more?
Rambling.
Why didn't they use him more in the second half and have more targets?
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for that one. I do think that the pressure started to get to Jaron Williams, and the decision-making went down the toilet a little bit. But I honestly think the game plan going into any tight game Miami plays should be Brevin Jordan, Brevin Jordan, Brevin Jordan. Let that guy eat as much as you possibly can.
So when you mentioned the name Tate Martell, it's obviously a hot button issue around here in Vegas. I know, it's become a big story nationally, but just how big is the story down there?
Huge. It was a three-man competition for the starting quarterback. Me, along with many others, I thought Tate Martell would end up winning the job. Each of the three guys competing had their own dynamic. I thought Martell was the best scrambler and probably like the best rah-rah leader that they had out of the three. I think Jaron Williams won the starting job because he had the strongest arm and had the best decision-making. I think that's what gave him the edge. But there was definitely some shock. I will say that I thought some of the and a lot of this is social media where everybody's nasty, but I thought a lot of the people who were kicking Tate Martell when he was down were a little bit out of line. When you're talking about a college kid, now I know he puts himself out there because he always has that boisterous personality, but I just thought that a lot of the shame that he was taking when Jaron Williams was named the starter was a little bit unnecessary, and I think he might, guys, still find a way to contribute to this team, even not playing quarterback. He didn't do much, but he did line up at receiver either wide or in the slot for 13 snaps in the game, and I think if he can find a way to help the team rather than just holding a clipboard, I think that could end up being a great story if he can kind of become a low-key, solid receiver for Miami this year.
Well, yeah, and he was out on the field. He had a couple snaps, lined up at quarterback. I think it was two, lined up in the slot some. And it certainly is a distraction for the defense. I know they had one big play when the defense was all looking at Martell, and they were able to get a big play out of it. So I think he can be a weapon, but how much does he have to commit to playing receiver? And does that completely abandon any chance of him going back to quarterback at some point?
That's a great question, and that's something that has not been answered yet by the staff. But if I'm just going to make my opinion on it known from the outside looking in, I think he should fully commit to it. I do. I think maybe the holdup for that would be, since the quarterback competition between Martel Cofield and Jaron Williams was so close, because it really Williams, he won the competition, didn't run away with it. I kind of wonder if there's a thinking among the other two guys that this job could be mine at any second, right? Like one thing goes wrong, one really poor game, I might still have a shot to get that job. But I don't know. I think if I'm Tate Martell, I really give some serious thought to putting a quarterback thing on the back burner. And if my best chance to get on the field is to be a playmaker, either in the slot or a receiver, I think he should definitely think about fully committing to it. I think that's a great point you bring up, and it's something I don't have the answer for yet.
Cofield and Company talking to Alex Dono, Miami radio guy, all around the Canes all the time. And it's a big topic here in Vegas because we got a bunch of Bishop Gorman kids, obviously the best known in Tate Martell. We didn't mention the third guy. What is the latest with Bubba Bolton?
Yeah, he's with the team now. I know that there was a delay in joining, and there's a lot of optimism. Miami's defensive coordinator, Blake Baker, and Manny Diaz is a defensive guy. They speak very highly of him. Miami has been kind of shorthanded at defensive back. They had a corner, DJ Ivey, who was suspended for the game. So I think we're going to see a lot more depth in Miami's secondary moving forward. I think Bubba Bolden's going to be a big part of that. I have every indication that he will be. Last
one, let's pivot to the NFL. How big a topic was Brian Flores and, jerking around with the music and Jay-Z stuff with Kenny Stills? Because from afar, to me, a rookie coach doesn't need to be doing stuff like that. And it looked like a rookie move. I just thought it was silly.
I thought it was incredibly silly. And I kid you not, that was what everybody was talking about, like Miami sports media, for a good 36 hours, guys. I mean, that was something I almost thought it was silly, the way that news cycle took off. But that was Brian Flores being silly. And the way that he reacted to it afterwards, I think it was after the third preseason game that he addressed it. And he wasn't even asked a question. I think he realized this story has become something so big, I need to, right out of the gates, come out here and address it. I think made you realize that Flores, I think very naively so, didn't think anybody would, outside of the locker room would even notice that he opened practice with 4 Jay-Z songs. And I think he was surprised that the media was keeping track of that. And the whole thing just blew up into something I think is unnecessary for a guy who's not coached a regular season game yet.
I'm going to ask a very selfish question here. Kalen Ballage or Kenyon Drake, and really, is it all going to not matter at all because the offensive line is so bad?
Part B, yes. I think it's not going to matter a whole lot, but I think Kalen Ballage offers a little bit more. I think Kenyon Drake is a bit limited between the tackles and very limited as a blocker. I think, to me, all the signs are still pointing up with Kalen Ballage, where I think Kenyon Drake is a bit closer to hitting his ceiling. So I'm more bullish on the future of Kalen Ballage.
Alex, what's the podcast? Tell people.
5 Reasons Sports. I'm doing a couple things with them. I'm doing 5 Reasons Canes podcast. 5 Reasons Canes, where you find it, iTunes, Android, all those spots. And I'm also doing some MMA and boxing stuff for a podcast called Out for the Count. So it's all under the 5 Reasons banner. They're doing pretty big things down in South Florida.
Awesome. Glad you're doing well. We appreciate a couple minutes.
Thanks, man.
There you go, Alex Dono.